and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so attendance, appointment of alternates. We are all here, so there is no need for an alternate. And welcome, Barbara, to your first meeting. So move on to approval of agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
And is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Approval of minutes, regular meeting, February 20th, 2019.
I move we approve as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay. Motion passes. Okay, on to public participation. Anybody? There's like a lot of people today. All right, so move on. Communication. Right now there is no communication, so we are good. Monthly reports. Okay, so we do not have Amy here today. She is on vacation. So I know that you all review them at home. So my question would be is if there are any questions. If you have any questions. There's nothing really that we haven't already discussed at our other meetings. Amy left a couple notes. Just that there are the list of the bridges in here because the Board of Selectmen discussed bonding for them next spring. It is just a list right now for us to have as a part of our packet.
I have a list of the bonding that we're considering if you want to see that.
Sure. Has everybody gone through the revenue and the expenses? Do we have any questions? Anything we want to highlight and question when Amy gets back or something that?
My questions are answered in the transfers. So.
In the transfers? Okay. That's our next step, so perfect.
And then as long as income from the state's still going to come through, I think we're going to be okay.
Yep. And Amy has said she's checked more than once to verify that, so we should be good. Anybody else, anything? And you got Bob's list, and also you have the list from Joe in here too, so they're matching the two things together. And not only do they have the bridges in the bonding proposal, they have the roof replacement, senior center, and some paving, so it's not just that. All right. All good, or any questions?
Good.
All right, perfect. All right, so we are going to move on to the transfers. Ready? Yep, yeah, she two-sided. She two-sided. All right, so the first one.
I will move the approved transfer request number 18 for town property in the amount of $9,900 from health and life insurance to building repair.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
That's for those.
It's for the HVAC unit at Scout Hall. That unfortunately came out of the town side of repairs. So, and that's something Bob is working with Amy, correct, and the lawyer on figuring out the whole Scout Hall.
Well, there's the Scout Hall developed a lease, I believe it was in 1996, and there was in the lease there's just a short paragraph called capital repairs, and it said that the town would be responsible for capital repairs. But what capital repairs meant was never really defined, and so they came over and said, we need a new HVAC system, that's a capital repair. And we said, wait a minute. And so we talked about it, but we never resolved it. Now we have a lawyer involved. We're trying to rewrite the part of the lease that deals with capital repairs. And in the interim, we said, okay, we'll split the cost of repairing this just to get us, because it needed air conditioning and then it needed heat. So we split the cost, and that came out of the town properties.
All right, so now my question to that, Bob, is so unfortunately, that wasn't budgeted for,
Absolutely.
obviously. So that's gonna short town property, $10,000. So how are we gonna handle that?
I have no idea.
Okay. So we probably need to think about that because we don't wanna put off any maintenance repairs that you guys are gonna have on the town side so that we get further and further behind.
Probably you should increase and it looks like already the Scout Hall has come into capital improvements. They want, they put into the CIP for money. So I think probably you would want to increase the budget for town property.
Yeah, that's the new budget you're coming up is what you're
Right.
talking about. But what I'm talking about is this year, the budget we're dealing in, the year we're running in right now, that's gonna short your town property 10,000, and I'm sure repairs aren't gonna be able to get done.
I would say
That
talk to
money
Amy
was
about
slotted
that.
to.
We're already in the negative.
Okay,
And even with that 9,000 back in there, we'll still be in the negative.
that's what I thought. Okay. Yep. All right, any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Me.
Okay, motion passes. Number 19,
I'll move we approve transfer request number 19 for the IT department in the amount of $10,150 from health and life insurance to professional services.
is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
And this is, we're upgrading the computer system, I assume,
This is,
from what I've tried
No.
to read.
no,
This is,
Joe's here, he can explain it to you if you'd like him to. Quickly, 1, 2, 3.
I may have missed something maybe.
The police department recently upgraded their software system to the next gen.
Okay.
And that was the support that we did not budget for our IT consultant plus some hardware,
Oh, okay.
so.
All right, yeah, okay, very good, thank you.
All right, anything else? Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Number 20,
I'll move we approve transfer request number 20 for Public Works in the amount of $17,000 from health and life insurance to their overtime line.
is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? We've already discussed this one, so, okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Transfer number 21,
I'll move we approve transfer request number 21 for the police department in the amount of $12,500 from private duty to the CNR equipment line.
okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion?
I assume this is to equip one of the new vehicles for their canine, quicker operate right now, okay.
Yep. All those in favor?
Aye. Sorry.
Opposed? Motion passes. I really hope this isn't the one she wanted to sign. We'll be doing it over. All right, we move to number 9, fund balance update. I just feel like this one we might put off till she gets back. All right, so fund balance update is she had sent us a fund balance revised, and then there was a fund balance revised again, from 220 to 320. The first revision, if you notice, was what we discussed, which was the amounts, the percentages, I should say, but still the amounts. The second change was a change by Bob that he had found the committed fund balance, where it said that we would be responsible for the committed funds. And as required by charter, it is under the selectmen to deal with committed funds. What, I'm sorry? I thought, yes. So, if you want to take a minute to look it over, if you didn't get a chance to look it over. So do you guys see where the changes were in the percentages?
But is this what we're doing already or not?
This whole thing is what we were doing already, except we changed the range of 10% and then to 20%, because we felt, Amy felt that in this time and day and age, the 17 was too low. And 5 wasn't enough. So we did the 10. And then if you go to, let me make sure my notes are right, to the committed fund section, that was the only part that changed. And it said the highest level of decision-making authority of the town is required by charter. And took out the section where it said that it was the board's, right here, you can see where it says amounts constrained on the 220.
Yeah.
Specific purpose by formal action of the Board of Finance, the highest level. But then in committed fund, they changed it to amounts constrained to specific purposes by formal action of the legislative body of the town, i.e. town meeting or referendum, the highest level of decision-making authority of the town, as required by charter. So, and that's only the committed funds. That's all that it touches.
But don't we already go to town meeting for that already or not?
We do.
Okay.
We do. I mean, it wouldn't.
So it's just
Yeah,
clarifying what
kind of-
we're kind of already doing anyway.
Yep.
Okay.
So what we would have to do is, if you guys are all in agreement and okay with this fund balance policy revision, we'd have to make a motion and pass it. Because the fund balance is our balance, it is our policy, so it has to be passed by us.
This still doesn't talk about the proper process though, the way this is written right now, because it has to come to us first for approval, then go to. So is this actually properly written as it is presented to us? In this, that's my head. It seems like what we're doing is a combination of both of the ways these are written, but this is not just written one way.
Yeah, I mean, we can put it off till she gets back, if you have
I think it was written
questions.
in 2012 or something, so.
Yeah. I mean, if you guys want, I mean, it's not like earth-shattering, I mean, it can go till next month.
We've got more important things to do next, we can table it. So we
Alright.
just table it to the next meeting?
Sure.
How will we table this decision on fund balance wording update until our next meeting of whatever date it is?
How about
April.
of April? Our next regular meeting of April. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, perfect. All right, we're on to Board of Education cafeteria update.
Am I okay back here, or do you want to?
Wherever you want to go, completely up to you.
All right. Most of the people here, mine anyway. This may not sound good on the front end, but this is actually positive news. In reviewing the state of the cafeteria over the past, honestly, like 10 years, the state of the finances at the end of every year has varied significantly over the past 10 years, with about 2 of the years being still positive. But one of the things for now is that you folks all know that we ended last year with a deficit of about $65,000. But what I will clarify is that at the beginning of last year, there was actually a positive balance in the cafeteria. So the total deficit was higher than the 65. At this point, based on current operations, we still have not gotten January and February federal reimbursement, but based on our estimated reimbursement, and if we look at expenditures the way last year trended, our total deficit at this point looks like it would be about $60,000 for this year. So quite honestly, that would be close to half of what it was last year. So We still anticipate it would be running negative, but much improved from the prior year. You know, in talking with Perry, our food service director, she's obviously she's not happy with the fact that there's not a profit in the food service, because there have been a lot of changes made over the past few years to the positive this year. But she and I have decided we're going to have a consultant come in to work with her. She would like to know if there's something fresh eyes would see. Just another food service director from a town that has very similar demographics to ours, to come in and walk through the whole program with her and just have that professional conversation and make suggestions, because she is implementing the program like we talked about, all of the changes, and we're still having a challenge getting subscription up. So, so as I said, it doesn't sound that great on the forefront to say that we're trending to have a deficit, but it is about half of what we looked at last year. And obviously, at the next regular meeting, I'll update you again, and hopefully the consultant will have been here by then, and we can update the plan.
Sounds good. Perfect. Well, you're next anyways. So.
Oh, all right.
Board of Ed presentation for the budget. Well, true.
Cool.
There's all kinds of
You're welcome.
Is it? I'll have to take one of these
Why?
Air coming.
Oh, no. No, I can't see if I. This last one is somewhat informational for after the presentation, because there's a reference to this, and I think you folks have heard us talk about pieces before a little bit, but we thought a little bit of additional information would be helpful.
First of all, thank you for having us to help you understand what goes on in our budget and why we're asking for the funds that we're asking for. And thank you, staff, for joining us. So we'll start with the community priorities. So one of the things that we've been going through is this process called Portrait of a Graduate, and something that was started up at the state level. And there's been work to decide what is it that we want from our students when they graduate. What is that? What does that look like? And then we can work backwards to how to get there. So we've been going through that process, and that work has helped us define the vision that we want to move forward with. So we did a survey both in the community and with our staff, and the responses from both of those groups identified the need to address the whole child. Our goal is to provide a system that helps our students achieve all of the priorities that you see listed. Communication skills, including public speaking. And they might have to be me, or you. Technology, life skills, budgeting, organization, independence, the strong writing and reading and math skills they need, critical thinking skills, problem solving. Our staff said they need to be curious, motivated, problem solvers, open-minded, critical thinkers. They need to be ready to be civic contributors. Like, we need people who are going to contribute to our society. They're communicators, they need to be culturally and ethically aware, and they need to be healthy decision makers, resilient, reflective, and socially, emotionally aware. So how do we get there? First of all, we have to look at what the needs of our students are. What are they dealing with? How do we educate them? How do we get this information into them in a way that allows them to achieve these goals? So one of the first things we want to talk to you about are ACEs. Those are adverse childhood experiences. There are types of childhood trauma: physical, verbal, sexual abuse, neglect, substance abuse in the house or themselves, parental divorce, separation. All of these things are things that contribute. They're experiences we really don't want our children to go through, but they do. There's been this first study was done in 1995, and there have been dozens of studies that have followed, and they all came up with the same responses, the same answers. ACEs are common in every class in society, even the middle class. Nearly 2/3 of our population have at least one, have experienced at least one ACE. And nearly 1/4 have experienced 3 or more. That's a lot when you look at the kinds of things that we're talking about. So we don't live in a golden bubble here in East Windsor, so we know that some of our families are dealing with challenges. So what is the impact of that on our students? So there's a correlation between the number of ACEs that students have and the greater impact on a lot of factors. So these are some of them: their attendance, their mental health, their performance in school, their physical health, discipline, and as they grow, increased risk of heart disease, substance abuse, and early death as adults. So ACEs create stress, and stress over time, chronic stress, affects us. Those of us who've dealt with periods of high stress in our lives know that it does affect us. It affects our appetite, our sleep, our health. It's not fun, and we can relate to those kinds of outcomes. But we're adults. Now imagine a child who's living in a high-stress situation most of the time, if not all of the time. That's a lot to expect for a small child and still be able to come to school and function properly. So what do we need to do to help them? They can't learn when these things are going on, or they can't learn appropriately. So they need academic supports to help fill in the gaps when they don't understand something in class. They need nursing supports to help with emotional and health issues. They need mental health services, ongoing and crisis services. Sometimes things come to a head. And the families need some support. We do have our CHC, and I always forget what it stands for.
Community Health Center.
Thank you. Community health centers. So we have them in the schools. We have 2 centers, one at the high school and one at Broadbrook. Those are provided outside the East Windsor taxpayer base. That's not coming from the funds of the East Windsor tax base. And they provide some of the services. They provide us with 3 full-time mental health clinicians, and we have the 2 centers. In addition to the crisis and the mental health, they also do simple things. They help kids get inoculations. They help kids get their physicals that they need in order to be able to enter school. Kids who need, have a cold, just need to see a doctor, think they have strep throat, can go down there and get treated, and if so, can be sent home with a parent. So it's a great thing to have in the schools. We don't have a pediatrician still in East Windsor, to the best of my knowledge. So it really helps our families out to have them in the building. So what do our students need to overcome? And these statistics are from the East Windsor Public School Nurses Office only. The CHC services are in addition to these numbers. Well, we deal with chronic absenteeism, and that's kind of defined as 1 absence per 10 school days. And that obviously can impact their performance and their ability to graduate. The high school, 16, almost 17% of our kids, middle school, 10%, Broadbrook, 10%, are dealing with chronic absenteeism. Those are high numbers. In this year to date, this is for this year to date, this school year that we're in now. The nursing visits, we've had 9,136 nursing visits among our 3 schools. We have 1 full-time nurse at each school plus 1 floating LPN. That's who's handling all of that. Interestingly enough, by state statute, we don't have to have a full-time nurse in every school, but it would create an unacceptable safety risk to do otherwise. We have kids with severe allergies and diabetes issues that we need to stay on top of as a staff. Someone needs to be there to be able to deal with that directly and immediately if something happens. Mental health needs. Approximately 10% of our population receives counseling services from our staff. Again, not including who goes to CHC for those services. Need for academic support. We have students in intervention for reading and math, 163 in reading and 107 in math. You can see the numbers as they're broken down by school below that. So those are the things we're dealing with. So how do we do it? So over time, our budget has been impacted. Over the last 7 budget years, the difference between what we've requested and what we've received has been a decrease of over $6 million. Some of the staffing changes, we've eliminated grade K, 3, 4, and 5 teachers. We've eliminated a business, music, career tech ed teachers at the high school. We eliminated another math teacher, reading tutors, and a reading teacher. We eliminated various support positions, copy aid, computer tech, library aid, and we reduced time for a math teacher. We reduced our secretarial staff in each building, and we reduced the time on our social worker. So we've already cut back in a number of areas, and here we are today. So what do we do to keep what we have now? As we presented the numbers initially, it's an 8.6% increase. And what drives that, as we've talked to you before, was the special education influx that we had at the end of the previous year after the budget was created and into this year before this year's budget was created. So we were unable to budget for that. And that's a significant amount of money, $669,000, and that's 34% of our budget increase. The estimated insurance increase, it started at about 18%. This reflects about the 12.89 that we are currently bargaining with the insurance company. Our personnel is up about 412. Operational adjustments, our utilities, our water, etc., our maintenance, that's 9% of our budget increase. OPEB, we have no control over that. That's $60,000 and 3% of our increase. We did put in the food service contingency, $65,000, which was recommended by the auditor. We increased our educational supplies and materials by 4%. We did reduce some service contracts, so we saved $50,000 there. And we made some other reductions of about $51,000 that flex staff, postage, legal, online resources, and we adjusted our choice enrollment revenue to reflect the physical number of seats that we have today. And there was also an increase in costs for students to attend out-of-district agricultural programs of about $68,000. So we said 8.6%, but I just want you to think of this in different terms a little bit. If we took that $670,000 that we're spending in special education this year, and we added that to this year's budget, because that is what we're spending this year, then what we're asking for would be about a 5.6% increase. So it doesn't look quite as bad when you say it that way, but it is. But that's what we're looking at. And we have saved about $400,000 by freezing our budget and not buying the supplies that we need. That's a short-term stopgap. We can't continue to do that year after year after year. So there was a change in the insurance. Initially, there was an 18% number budgeted for. And then we got them down to the 12.89, and that would have given us a savings of 142,000 and some change. But, before you dance, we had increased enrollment at the Suffield Agri-Science program and the Rockville program. And that is going to require us to add another bus at $51,000. And our tuition is increasing $47,800 at one and $20,500 at the other. So that 142 got eaten up pretty fast, and we get about $22,000 of savings at the end of that. We also had some decreased revenue for this year. We lost about $148,000. There was a $50,000 restorative practice grant, and that was a one-shot deal. And we're estimating about $7,000 in the Medicaid reimbursement and $96,000 on the sped choice component, the excess cost and federal grant, all those reductions that they're talking about. And then there's NEASC. The high school is starting its every 10-year review with NEASC, New England Association of Schools and Colleges. And the purpose of NEASC is to ensure that all the schools are meeting their standards, that our students are educated at the same level as all the others in our region, and it signifies that the district is willing to maintain those standards by working to maintain high-quality teaching and learning. We have to report any substantive changes to NEASC within 60 days of making them. Some of those changes include changes in fine arts offerings, in student activities that we have, reductions in teachers, support staff, or administrators, significantly decreased funding. So 10 years ago, during our last NEASC review, our high school was put at warning. And that was for some very specific issues. And we worked hard to address those, and we came off warning in 3 years, before the midterm review, which was great. And we began this NEASC review with a very favorable collective conference. So right now, we're in a good place. We'd like to stay there. This might be a good time to talk about what's on the potential cut list, but which you guys have. So I'm not sure if Chris has explained it to you. The first page, the yellow, would be the more likely things that we would cut. And then we get more drastic after that. So the final page, which is very drastic cuts. I'm going to say that if we took all of these cuts, we would not be at a 2% budget increase. With all of these things gone, we would still not be. Do you remember what the number was?
I want to say around 3.
Okay, I was going to say between a 3 and a 4. Okay. So some of the things that we would have to report to NEASC. If we reduced or eliminated any sports, or all sports. If we eliminate the social studies position that we're talking about, when we take the reductions in the CTE teacher, the music teacher, or the art teacher. If we reduce electives due to those teaching cuts. If you don't have a teacher, you can't provide the elective. So they go together. We also have a Mac lab for music that's in very bad shape that we want to clean up and keep functional. If we don't have the Mac lab, we can't let the students use it. So that would be a reduction that we would have to report. Any substantial reduction in our supply budget. One of the things on the cut list is the elimination of central registration. Today we have all new students register their students at central office. It's kind of one-stop shopping, so somebody with kids at multiple schools doesn't have to go to multiple schools. Everything's handled by one staff person. So soup to nuts, it's all done the same way, easily. It's more accurate. But if we eliminate that, we're going to have to move those duties out to the different schools, which is going to affect the high school staff, which would have to be reported. So almost anything on those pages that affects the high school would end up being something that we would have to report to NEASC. So what's not in the budget? We still don't have intramural sports, despite the fact that everybody wants it. We still can't fund the football bus fully, so those kids are working hard to raise funds to do that. Parents are working hard, booster clubs, the East Windsor Athletic Association, and we throw in a small amount when we can. and I do mean small compared to the cost of the buses. We just don't have regular summer school for kids who need some help but aren't considered to be at that lowest level where it's required. And the other thing that I realized I didn't mention to you was they're still tossing around towns picking up part of the teacher pension next year, I believe. I don't think that's been completely squashed. That's not in here either, because that's a guessing game. And all of these priorities are things that are in the strategic plan for us, things we should be doing, things that the community and our staff and everybody who came together to build that plan identified as things that they would like to see our schools doing. So, here we are at our final request of 8.6 or 5.6, depending upon how you want to look at it. And that reflects the fact that we've already taken out 2 middle school teaching positions. We were able to do that because we made a change to the middle school schedule that would allow us to remove those 2 teachers. We lowered our district printing and postage, we lowered our legal fees, we removed a staff stipend, and the universal screening for grades 5 to 12. What does it include? The technology lease cost for year 2. So we'll know tomorrow, hopefully, whether we still need that in there or not. We still have our modest contingency fund for catastrophic failure of technology or building equipment. And we have already used a significant chunk of that this year. And when I say modest, it's under $70,000, $69,000. It's not a lot of money for the 3 buildings that we have. We have increased special education and transportation and tuition. That $670,000 is in here because those students haven't left us. And we also budgeted for the overages for food services as requested by the auditor. So these are some of the things that are on the potential reduction list. The late bus, that would impact up to 75 students if we took away a day of late bus. Or eliminated it completely for I think we do 3 days? 2 days. 2 days. A laptop cart for grade 2. We need a cart to be able to charge the laptops that we have for them, and without that, they really won't use laptops because we won't have a way to keep them functional. About $38,000 in instructional supplies, which includes books, athletic equipment, lab supplies, nursing supplies, a lot of stuff crammed in that line. Maintenance supplies of $13,000, technology supplies $6,000. The athletic program is at risk. Portions of it or the whole thing. On the list is the elimination of 15 staff positions. We would lose middle school Spanish, no more language at the middle school. We would lose middle school chorus. It involves a lot of kids. We'd lose some reading and math intervention teachers and tutors, and the high school social studies teacher. So that's, we talked to you about the reasons we need those tutors to help our kids get through the things they're dealing with. So we're looking at reducing them when, by rights, we could actually use more to help those kids. Then we would reduce 8 positions, the high school art, the high school family and consumer science, the safety officer, and the high school music. But, all that said, East Windsor is still a great place to be. So we showed you some pictures, some rallies, some, I believe the picture on the right looks like the Powder Puff game, and I'm going to guess, yeah. And you can see some of the others. Some of the things I want to highlight, if you look at the annual report, there's lists of the things that we achieved and some of the more notable things that we did. But some of the things I want to bring to your attention is band and chorus from the high school and middle school performed at least 7 different events, and 1 student advanced to the All-State Musical Festival. The art students created an Adirondack chair representing East Windsor, and that's on display at Bradley Airport. Students across the district participated in art at the Capitol and a district art show. World Language Department hosted a trip to Spain. Before you get worried, no, that did not come out of tax money, but we can do it because she's there. Rebecca Syme and Jake Martin were recognized at the Scholar Leader Banquet through the Connecticut Association of Schools. Eric Duncan advanced to the state finals for the Geography Bee. Rebecca Syme and Michael Mitchell went to the state finals for the Invention Convention. Broadbrook Band performed with the East Windsor Middle School Band, which they enjoyed immensely. Top honors went to Martin Resto and Rachel Gendro in Poetry Out Loud, and to Natalie O'Connor, who took first place. 20 students received college credit from our UConn for English through the Early College Experiences courses. We had 26 athletes advance to the NCCC All-Conference team, the NCCC All-Tournament team, or the Class S state. And those covered soccer, baseball, softball, basketball. Marcus Goss and Lauren D'Agostino made the 1,000-point club in basketball. 7 sports teams advanced to some level in the state tournament. Tristan Garrick advanced to the track and field nationals for javelin. And Broadbrook hosted a school-wide assembly to celebrate student learning and attendance and presented the Presidential Excellence and Presidential Achievement Awards. Our nursing staff trained 5 staff as CPR instructors, 20 staff in CPR and first aid, and another 15 in medication delegation. And we updated and submitted all school safety and hazards plan to FEMA as required. So there's a lot going on, a lot of good going on, despite the fact that we're kind of struggling with the money side of it. And these are the things that we really want to keep going. So that's it. That's all I have for you. Do you have any questions?
Not yet.
Okay. We gave you some information too about ACEs, a little bit more of a write-up so that you could understand those better. I kind of breezed over it. Thought it might be useful for you to read about that.
Oh, anything?
Kathy?
Yes, thank you. I'm just curious, how many very special ed children do we have?
The physical number?
What's our
The ones that are
special
educated
education
quite well.
enrollment
As far as total kids on IEPs
that are our responsibility?
about 210.
About 210.
Right, now, just out of curiosity, because so much has to be spent on these special ed children, I don't know what the quota is, but are our regular students suffering because the amount of money we have to put on to educate these very special, and I mean, we're taking teachers, you name it, some of these regular students are going to go out into the world, and they've got to support families, they've got to go to college, a lot of things that very special ed children will not do.
So if I can answer you.
Go right ahead.
The vast majority of our population that are identified as having special needs will absolutely be able to function completely, typically in the world. They will be employed, they will get married, they will have productive full-time jobs because there's a very wide variety of what qualifies as having a special education need. So there's a very broad range of students, and most of them will fall into exactly what you described. The short end of it is that the special education laws are federal laws, and we don't have a choice but to provide the services that are necessary. So instead of us looking at it in terms of we're taking away from someone else, we like to, well, we think about it in this way and truthfully believe it. I mean, I was a special ed director myself for 10 years, and we believe that our special ed population brings a lot to our district. We have unified sports teams where students with special needs and students who are not play on competitive sports teams together, and the students without special needs gain as much from that as our students with needs. I think our students without special needs gain an incredible amount of understanding and empathy and learn how to be helpful and compassionate toward people who are different than them. So while we have to provide,
I understand them too.
I know, we've talked about it enough that you folks understand that it's a mandate under federal law, but we do feel there's a lot of benefit to the entire district by having the integrated population. So
I had issues on that because I have grandchildren. They went to school. These very special children. And because the attention span, I don't know how in the world they got an education, but my grandson said he would fight today. He's got twins, he's got little children. He would fight today not to be in those children, be in a special class like that.
I
Would we
will only
really
say
like
I respect his opinion, but I don't share it.
Well, I
Yep.
respect that, but
Yep.
I don't want my girls in trouble and not get the education they deserve because of somebody seriously in trouble.
And we believe that our students are getting the education they deserve. And honestly, we would very much like to not have to make reductions. But if we have to make reductions, we can't reduce mandated service. So it comes down to very difficult choices for the Board of Education.
In our schools, do we have more special, I don't mean Down syndrome or autism, if I can say the word right. I don't mean them, but the real special, or do we have more than that of them, or these particular students than other schools do? 'Cause,
It
I
varies.
mean, we have
We're-
a wonderful
we have-
school system, terrific. And I don't know if
We've looked at
teachers
some of
are,
those statistics in the past, and I think, sometimes we may be a little higher, sometimes we may be a little lower, but I think overall, it's not that different.
because I need to see some children sacrificed.
I don't
I don't think they get, I don't think they do get sacrificed either. I mean, my kids went through our high school, and from pre-K all the way through. And they're both very successful, professional people out there earning a living and living a life. And it comes down sometimes to what you're willing to put in and to what you'll get out as well. Students have to meet us halfway. And we can do our best to meet them. Some students will refuse to step to that plate, and other students will, and we'll use that. Take everything that we can give them and move on in life with it, and that's what we're looking for, to get as many of those as we possibly can, and to get them there.
I do feel strongly, Kathy, that we provide a high-quality program for all of our students.
I'd have to rely on that. Thank you.
You, I guess, you have your actual breakdown out numbers to your actual budget number, because I have no clue what it is.
You know how you give us the little lines, the really tiny ones that we have trouble reading?
Yes.
Yeah. Did we bring that tonight? Or did we just sort of forget to do that on top of all of this? We can get it to you
I
certainly.
can get it to you.
Because I'm thinking
Because
this
I'm
is
working on this, and I might
Yeah,
have
no,
just
before it's
overlooked
time
doing
for
that.
you to come back.
Right,
we'd be
you
able
guys
to-
need to be able to look at that, absolutely.
Well, give me 2 minutes and I'll do it for you.
Couldn't we carry our lives in our phones?
I'm carrying Andy in my phone.
Okay. Any other questions while we're still going, or? We're waiting for the little print?
Well, you want me to?
No, I know.
Okay. Be really small on this.
We'll definitely make sure you get that.
Okay.
We'll get it into your emails tonight.
All right, perfect.
Well, I mean, in terms of the spreadsheet.
Geraldine, can I clarify? You just want our total request for FY20?
The total request, yeah, but I would also, what is it?
The line by line like we usually do, right?
Yeah, line by line, the little, because
Spreadsheet.
that way we'll have it done by the time we meet with you guys, the time that we do the whole breakdown and everything. This is all of this.
Okay. We hear about the Board of Selectmen. I apologize, I don't have much of a show. You have the numbers, and they're in the booklet. I'm sure you're going to go through it in the budget workshop line by line. But just to get a perspective, the total budget is, for the entire town, is about $42 million. And Board of Education is about 61%, and the town is about 39%. And just for perspective, from the town's point of view, 1% of last year's budget is about $160,000. So if we went up to a 2%, that would mean available to the town would be approximately $320,000. Things I feel that, and I talked to Amy too, and the treasurer, that we have to fund is health insurance increase. We need a contingency because a lot of our increase of 100,000, because a lot of the unions and our employees are negotiating. And so they're not getting a raise this year, but we'll have to make up for it next year. We get the 27th payroll. So those are, we have to fund that. And the bottom line is, as I said before, the town budget is what we're asking for is $16,496,000, and that's an increase of about 3.45%. Questions?
Not right now, I don't think. We'll go over everything. I mean, oh, you guys have anything?
Not yet.
I guess we're good. Okay. On to unfinished business, which I don't think we really have any, so we're good on that. And then number 12 would be the upcoming meeting dates, which you guys have. Just make sure you have them on the calendar. I may have a conflict, and I'm not sure which. But I don't think I won't be here. I just might be late. I don't know what town I'm going to be, so let me look it up. Yeah, it's April 2nd. I'm not sure who we have on April 2nd. Yeah. So we don't have a breakdown on, I think I have the breakdown on April 2nd. I'll have to look. April 2nd, I'm in Bloomfield, and I'm there for at least 4 hours, so I'll probably just be a little late. Let's not change it. I mean, if anything, I'm just going to be running in here just a little haggard. So Bill can start. Good. He's good. I'll double check what we have set on that, and we'll go from there. Anybody else, or are y'all good?
I'm good.
All right, on to board member comments. So, Karen, anything?
Oh, I have nothing.
Nothing? Bill?
No.
Nothing? Not yet? Barbara, anything? Again, welcome aboard. Sarah?
Just an observation. I attended the final Board of Selectmen budget workshop on March 13th. I feel it's necessary to comment on how CIP was handled by a few members of the Board of Selectmen. The members of the CIP committee are volunteers just like us and other boards. They devote their time and hard work to do the task at hand. I found it very shameful how they were micromanaged, how their research and work was picked apart. It's an appointed board, and their recommendations and advice should be taken seriously into consideration. I feel that it's time that we start respecting our boards and elected officials, have confidence that they have done the job that they were appointed to do to the best of their ability.
Okay. Kath, anything?
Ditto. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I have to say, I'm 100% on board with that. It was really disheartening to attend that last Board of Selectmen meeting, to be honest with you. Whether it's an advisory board or not, it's a board that was put in to do a specific job. They work hard. You know, the formulas that were, I could never have done it for the spreadsheet and everything to figure out importance and weight things and all that. At first I wouldn't have the patience to do it, but I would have never been able to do it either. But I mean, all that work for naught, because it was pretty much just thrown out and picked and choosed, and it was just disheartening. I think it'll play a significant part, I think, in my budget deliberations when it comes to capital. I'm not sure why you would have that board and have them work hard. Might as well not have it if that's what's going to happen, and I agree with my board. Bad meeting in my opinion, but same. We go forward from here, and we have our first one, public hearing, so that'll come, and we'll go from there. Anything else? All right, well, a motion to adjourn. Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion
And then I go back and email you the little prints. Can you,
You know what, can you email Amy so that she can print it for us? Because I won't be able to print it at home.
is she back tomorrow? So do I have to go
When
back
do we
to the
meet with
office
you
tonight?
guys? When do we meet with you guys?
28th. So do you just want it before the 28th?
When's Amy back?
Friday? Tomorrow? No.
No, I would imagine Monday. I would just say 25th.
You might now, I'll go back to the office.
No, because as long as we get it, yeah. I want to be able to, because like I highlighted to all that.
Absolutely, I'm sorry.
I was just looking at them like, maybe they want this out.
Oh, yeah, do you want the actual budget? Sure. I can email, I can make photocopies and bring it over tomorrow, that's not a problem.
All right, maybe when we back, you come in and order finance.
I have to know who I am. Sometimes I forget.
That would be perfect. Yeah.
Shouldn't there be,
Absolutely.
shouldn't there be
So
something
everybody
if you're
will
gonna
just
be
be
in negotiation?
Sure they know it'll be in the box.
Has to be in
Yeah,
there.
and then we can grab it.
Too, with my apologies.
Thank you.
I would think
No, it's
so.
okay. It just gives us time to.
Oh, you mean dispatchers?
For Joe. Joe?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the first time I've ever done that.
Where
Well, it's a situation, but
I'm losing my,
and
I
that's
lost
where
my voice.
negotiations go